It was a cool, quiet evening in Dallas, Texas, February 10th, 2024. The streets were calm, the kind of suburban stillness that makes you feel safe, until the silence is shattered. Inside a neat two-story brick house on Oak Ridge Lane lived the Millers. Robert Miller, 45, was a respected businessman. His wife had passed away years earlier, leaving him to raise their only child, 17-year-old Ethan Miller. Ethan wasn't the kid anyone would suspect of violence. He was polite, studious, a varsity basketball player with a bright future. But behind closed doors, tension was growing. And it centered on Aaliyah Johnson, a 16-year-old black honor student. She was fearless, full of life, and to Ethan, she was everything he felt he had lost in the world. Robert Miller did not approve. He forbade the relationship, calling it inappropriate, and according to witnesses, made comments that suggested racial bias. As the weeks passed, the arguments grew louder, the punishments harsher, and Ethan's frustration deeper. On the night of February 10th, the confrontation turned fatal. Robert found messages on Ethan's phone. The argument escalated. Neighbors reported shouting, slamming doors, and then silence. Shortly after midnight, a single gunshot tore through the quiet police, found Robert Miller dead in his bed, one shot to the chest. The revolver belonged to him, kept locked in a cabinet. Ethan was nowhere to be found. Hours later, he was spotted near a highway bridge, blood on his hands, holding the revolver, walking with a vacant stare. On his phone were dozens of unsent messages to Aaliyah. One read, "He can't stop us now." The case ignited national headlines. Teen kills father over forbidden love. Debate raged over whether this was a crime of passion, parental abuse, or something darker. Some called Ethan a cold-blooded murderer, others a broken boy pushed to the edge. The trial began in June 2024. Prosecutors argued the murder was deliberate, planned, and calculated. The defense painted Ethan as a teenager driven to desperation, emotionally unstable, and isolated. Aaliyah testified, her voice shaking, recounting the love that had once been a bright light in Ethan's life. After 6 months of testimony, evidence, and national attention, the courtroom was silent on August 22, 2024. The judge read the sentence slowly, each word echoing through the room. Ethan Miller, you are hereby sentenced to death by lethal injection. Gasps filled the courtroom. Ethan sat still, eyes fixed on the floor. Aaliyah broke down in the back row. Outside, the world debated, argued, and mourned. Some for Robert Miller, some for Ethan, and some for a love story that had ended in tragedy. The verdict was final. Ethan's cell was silent, but the silence was alive. The shadow had grown impossibly large, filling every corner, crawling across the ceiling and walls like a black tide. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly with neon light, burning into his mind, marking him. At first it had whispered, then it roared, and now it moved with purpose. From the corner of the room, the shadow stretched, coiling like smoke, then solidified into the unmistakable shape of his father, distorted, grotesque, and impossibly tall. Its hands were long, skeletal claws, and its hollow eyes shone with a hatred that no human emotion could hold. Ethan tried to back away, but his legs refused to obey. The shadow pressed in on him, cold and heavy, bending reality. The walls of the cell melted into darkness, and the neon glow of Dallas stretched infinitely, fractured into sharp shards that stabbed at his mind. He could see every reflection, the gun, the blood, his father's lifeless eyes, over and over, spinning like a nightmare carousel. Then it spoke, not just with words but with force, a sound that rattled his chest and made the air vibrate. The verdict, your life. The injection, guilty, guilty, guilty. The floor beneath him cracked. The shadow leaned closer, and for the first time Ethan felt its cold fingers brush his skin. Ice ran through his veins. His blood froze. The needle appeared before him, hovering in the neon darkness, glowing with the finality of death. It was enormous, impossibly sharp, and Ethan could hear the hiss of fluid being pumped through it, a heartbeat of doom synchronized to his own. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed. The shadow's face leaned in, hollow eyes pressing into his mind, and the voice whispered again, "You cannot hide. You cannot escape. The verdict, the injection, your guilt, forever." The walls shattered. The cell dissolved into fragments of neon light and black smoke. Ethan fell through endless darkness, tumbling into visions of the apartment. The gun, his father's body sprawled on the floor. Over and over, every shot, every heartbeat, every echo of the gavel's fall was replayed with a screaming intensity, each one bending him toward madness. Then the shadow merged with the needle, the injection itself becoming a living thing, a black liquid that dripped through the neon shards, crawling toward him with intent. The verdict wasn't just a sentence anymore. It was alive, hunting him, dragging him closer to the final moment again and again. Ethan tried to close his eyes to block it out, but the shadow penetrated even the darkness behind his eyelids. It whispered every sin, every mistake, every accusation, looping endlessly. Guilty, death by injection. You cannot escape. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And just as the needle hovered over him, ready to pierce flesh, the neon lights fractured into infinite shards, reflecting countless versions of himself, all screaming, all condemned. The shadow pressed in one final time, its cold weight crushing, and Ethan understood fully. This was no longer just a cell, no longer just a punishment by law. The verdict had become eternal. The injection was not only a sentence of the body, it was a sentence of the mind, the soul, the very essence of who he had been. The shadows closed in, the neon fractured, the whispering grew into a deafening roar. And Ethan Miller, 17, guilty, condemned, realized with bone-deep terror he would live forever in the shadow of the verdict, haunted, hunted, and unendingly guilty.